Our top story tonight on Gravitas is about the Russia-Ukraine war entering a dangerous new phase. Amid the impending talks between the US President Donald Trump and the Russian President Vladimir Putin, Russian forces are pressing forward on multiple fronts while Ukrainian defenses are being tested like never before, both in the air by Russian drones and on the ground by the Russian troops. And the stakes have never been higher. In fact, just earlier today, a Russian drone struck a multi-story apartment building in the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy. The impact was devastating, to say the least. The local governor, in fact, saying 4 people lost their lives, 9 others were injured, including a child. Ukrainian emergency teams rushed to the scene, pulling survivors from the rubble and recovering the dead. But Sumy was not the only target. Overnight, Russia launched a massive drone assault on Ukraine, sending 81 drones into the skies. Ukraine claims they managed to intercept 37 of them, while 39 failed to hit their targets. Despite Ukraine's efforts to shoot down the attack, homes and businesses across the country reportedly suffered significant damage. On social media, Zelensky condemned the strikes in Sumy, calling them yet another terrible Russian crime, quote-unquote, urging the world to maintain pressure on Moscow. But as the war drags on, international support for Ukraine is being tested. Military aid is slowing down, ammunition stockpiles are running low, and Ukrainian forces are reportedly in a more defensive stance. And that shift on the battlefield, you see, is becoming clear. In eastern Ukraine, Russian troops claim to have seized control of the settlement of Novoyelizavetovka in Donetsk. Moscow's defense ministry says Russian servicemen raised their flag over the town and launched multiple attacks on Ukrainian positions. At the same time, Ukraine says its forces repelled several Russian assaults in the Kursk region, where more than 90 battles reportedly took place over the past 24 hours. Ukraine's military says it struck key Russian targets, including ammunition depots, oil refineries, and a missile storage facility. The strikes reportedly caused an oil leak and fire at the Andreypol oil pumping station, while explosions were reported at the missile storage facility in Russia's Tver region. Social media footage showing Russia's Kostovo plant burning after debris from a Ukrainian drone sparked a fire overnight. In Russia's Belgorod region, a Ukrainian drone attack reportedly struck a residential home, killing a woman and her 2-year-old child. 2 others were wounded in the blast. Russia's defense ministry claims its air defenses intercepted 104 Ukrainian drones overnight, 104, and the missile exchanges are not letting up. Russia reportedly launched an Iskander-M ballistic missile overnight. Meanwhile, Ukraine's Odessa region, home to key port infrastructure, came under fresh Russian attack, with buildings reportedly damaged in the strikes. Meanwhile, local Russian reports stated that Russian forces have gained control over most of Chasiv Yar, a key eastern Ukrainian stronghold. While Kiev or Moscow have not officially confirmed this, Russian media claims Ukrainian troops have retreated to the outskirts of the city. If true, this could mark a major turning point in the war. You see, Chasiv Yar is not just another battlefield. It sits on a strategic hilltop in the Donetsk region and has reportedly been under relentless Russian attack for nearly a year. As per reports, Ukrainian defenders, once firmly entrenched, are now struggling to hold their ground. Manpower shortages and dwindling Western military support are taking their toll, allowing the Russian forces to tighten their grip. If Chasiv Yar falls completely, the consequences for Ukraine will be severe. It is reportedly the last major defensive position standing between Russian forces and the crucial urban centers of Kostyantynivka, Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, parts that Moscow has long set its sights on. And losing this stronghold could reportedly open the doors for deeper Russian advances into eastern Ukraine. The war, you see, has escalated far beyond traditional battlefields. The war between Russia and Ukraine is far from over, clearly. With each passing day, the violence in fact grows more intense. The front lines seem to shift and the toll rises. The question now is, how much longer can Ukraine hold the line, and can diplomatic solutions stop the war from spiraling out of control? As of now, diplomacy is moving on multiple fronts. Putin, in fact, said he is ready to talk to Ukraine, but without Zelensky. While Trump said he is ready to talk to Putin. That's not all. The Kremlin said Putin is ready to hold a phone call with Donald Trump, but Moscow is waiting for word from Washington that it is ready as well. There is clearly a lot going on. And how quickly all of this actually unfolds or unravels is anyone's guess. Shifting focus, our next story is about the massive mystery behind the Washington plane crash. You must have come across those visuals. Rescue and diving teams worked through the night in the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. at the site of Wednesday's deadly collision of a passenger jet and a military chopper. 28 dead bodies were pulled out. Officials saying hopes of finding survivors in the freezing water. Concern is rising in India that China is turning the Pakistani port of Gwadar across Aden and Red Sea into a virtual military base with the opening of a new airport. China already has troops in Balochistan on the pretext of protecting its citizens from attacks by terrorists. But the exact size of the PLA presence in the region is a secret. As was predicted by China watchers and specialists, Beijing is using the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI, in many areas to strengthen its military capability. With the Indian Navy patrolling in the Red Sea, this is an obvious cause of concern for New Delhi. The international Chinese military buildup also reflecting the Chinese ambition to become an alternative superpower to the US across strategic areas, economic growth, and scientific innovation. America has over 800 military bases across the world and has been a long-term military patron of Pakistan. The newly inaugurated airport in Balochistan has been branded a donation by the Chinese Communist Party's mouthpiece, Global Times. While Pakistan hailed it as a shining symbol of friendship with China, analysts suggest the move is expected to bolster the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, the biggest project under the BRI. But is this a cause of concern for India over Beijing's potential military presence in the region? Last week, a Pakistan International Airlines, or a PIA aircraft, landed at the new airport, which was inaugurated in October by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and the Chinese Premier. On January 20, the airport started its commercial operations. What's unique about the airport? Why is it significant? Well, the $230 million state-of-the-art airport spanning 430 acres in southwestern Pakistan is reportedly the largest airport built in the country. Going by the scale of the project and the investment involved, one would imagine it to be quite a big deal. It is in fact central to China's CPEC project worth $65 billion. And why is that? As China wants to develop Gwadar into a pivotal trade and transport hub. What it does not say or advertise is that the airport enables China to escalate its military presence in the region. You see, China has had its eyes on Gwadar for a long time. In fact, the Gwadar port is a main feature of the CPEC and key to the BRI project, and the China Overseas Port Holding Company plans to expand the port by constructing 9 new multi-purpose berths along 3.2 kilometers of seafront to the east of the existing ones. And what's more, Gwadar port is also poised to serve as an alternative shipping route to the Malacca Strait, which is frequently patrolled by the US, which opens China's doors to West Asia, a move that is supposed to have strategic and economic implications. And considering the dire state of Pakistan's economy and its status as a client state of China, Pakistan is not capable of exercising any independence. It has no option but to kowtow to China's plans, in which Pakistan is a surrogate for larger ambitions. Pakistan has even kept quiet on issues about Pakistan's territorial sovereignty. It has no option, for it has been caught in a classical debt trap which China uses for strategic advantage. And what will it mean for India and for its national security? Experts say this might raise maritime security concerns for India. And so India needs to keep a close watch on the activities unfolding there and be on its guard. Civil war has pushed Sudan into a grim humanitarian crisis. Sudanese armed forces and paramilitary rapid forces are engaged in a bitter conflict triggered after a military coup following the ouster of long-time ruler. 50% of Sudan's population is in need of humanitarian assistance, with the country facing extreme shortages of food, water, medicine and fuel. Over 25.6 million people are facing acute food insecurity, while 8.5 million people are lacking access to food and basic needs. Combined with the violence and uncertainty, this has triggered an unprecedented migrant crisis in the country. Over 11.5 million people have been displaced so far. And this, by the way, includes over 8.5 million people displaced within Sudan, while 3 million people fled to neighboring countries. Egypt is hosting the largest number of Sudanese refugees, followed by South Sudan, Libya, Uganda, Ethiopia. Several attempts at peace talks led by the US and Saudi Arabia have failed to yield a solution to the conflict. Sudan's military and its allies are making advances in rebel rapid support forces controlled areas, dealing a major blow to the paramilitary group. Sudanese army recently claimed it had taken control of Sudan's main oil refinery in Al-Jili. For more on this, our correspondent getting us this report from Lagos.
Sudan is facing severe famine with over 500,000 people at risk due to ongoing conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. In North Darfur, paramilitary shelling killed 7 people at a refugee camp already struggling with severe food shortages. Millions have been displaced and aid access remains severely limited. Despite this, local communities are stepping up with grassroots initiatives, providing food and medical care where international aid falls short. The world is calling for ceasefire and urgent humanitarian action, but with no resolution in sight, Sudan's crisis continues to worsen.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.